Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. I'm trying to take a little break today from the effusion of poems which I have been posting. Sometimes when you work so fast, and just in general to a degree with poetry, I retain very little memory of what I have written. It doesn't interest me. The process of putting something out there on the paper, that's interesting. But then after the fact, there's nothing there to call my attention to it, especially since I am at the tail end of my writing career, my illustrious writing career, where the mechanics behind what I'm doing hold very little secrets for me. So it's not, say, when I was young and you would write something and then you go back and try to figure out what's wrong with it or what you can do to make it better. At this point, none of that even is relevant to me. That's not saying that something that I write is good. And when you are working with this kind of speed, there is a fair amount that is not at the level one would like. That's just how it is. But I feel bad sometimes because I'll get a comment and I have no clue what the commenter is saying, what sort of point they're raising. And I mean, sometimes it's very, very nice. One just came in today and I have not responded yet. This sounds like a manifesto or something. I have no idea what the poem was that this commenter was responding to, and I'm not going to go back and rewatch these videos to figure out. It's not a good use of my time to go back. And if the notebook in which I was writing these things were more orderly, I could just flip back a few pages and probably find it. But it isn't. The titles are something that I just pop on when I post the video in many cases. So just even finding it would be too difficult. I appreciate comments though that I get, and I've had a couple of very, very lovely comments recently. People suggesting that my effort with this has not been futile. P. Krabs said that what I'm doing is exhaustive, not exhausting. Well, it can be exhausting too. And anybody who were trying to follow up on every video might well get exhausted. I've often said I can write a book faster than you can read a book. But these poems are not getting put into a book as yet. But I think there have been some viewers or listeners, as the case may be, that have responded to these poems in a positive way and taken some solace from them, just to the extent that, oh, there's another person out there who is seeing these things and reporting on them with a shred of sanity. It seems to be a line down the middle of my poems, depending on one's political stance. And I think the right-wingers, the MAGA folks, if they stumble upon one of my poems, do not like hearing the truth told to their face. And I thought that I would share, I've talked about, I discovered that some of my some of the comments that my channel receives, YouTube sort of flags them and hides them away, and they're held for review. And so they tend to be comments that use certain vocabulary, such as the perennial favorite among MAGA folks, libtard. And I've, for the most part, in some cases I would like to respond, but to do that it requires my clicking on the comment and making it an acceptable one, and then I think I have to find it where it is in the queue of all the backlog of comments, so I've just, for the most part, I've decided not to do that. When I receive a comment that is negative or somewhat insulting, but not insulting enough to get flagged, I'll just put my little thinking emoji as a response. In some cases, if somebody comments with something like "Go Trump" with a whole bunch of exclamation points or whatever, I feel doesn't really contribute much to any conversation or anything, so I just delete those when I see them. But I thought I would read some of the comments that I got. I might as well jump in. I have other things, though. Well, why don't I read you a little from The Way of the Sufi first? This is ostensibly a booktube channel. This book turns out to have had a great impact upon my life. My first literary exposure to spirituality, I think you could say. And first I'll read you a couple of, they are little anecdotes, a couple of anecdotes that talk about dogs. This one is The Teacher and the Dog. A Sufi teacher walking along a road with a student was assailed by a ferocious dog. The disciple was furious and cried out, "How dare you approach my master in such a manner?" "He is more consistent than you are," said the sage, "for he barks at anyone in accordance with his habit and proclivities, while you regard me as your master and are wholly insensitive to the merits of the many illuminates whom we have already passed on this journey, dismissing them without a second glance." The book is just full of wonderful stories of that sort. The next one is about the Sufi who called himself a dog. And this might have some cynical reminders for some of you. I think this is very much along the lines of something Diogenes possibly said. Maulana Dervish, chief of the Naqshbandi order and one of its greatest teachers, was sitting one day in his zavia when a furious cleric forced his way in. "You sit there," shouted the intruder, "dog that you are, surrounded by disciples, obeyed by them in every particular. I, on the other hand, call men to strive towards divine mercy through prayer and austerities as is enjoined upon us." At the word dog, several of the seekers rose to eject the fanatic. "Stay," said the Maulana, "for dog is indeed a good word. I am a dog who obeys his master, showing the sheep by signs the interpretation of our master's desires. Like a dog, I infuriate the interloper and the thief, and I wag my tail in pleasure when my master's friends come near. Just as barking and wagging and love are attributes of the dog, we exercise them. For our master has us and does not do his own barking and wagging. So this brings to the fore the topic of name calling. And I'm glad that I've had early training in this sort of thing, to where, what was the Ben Jonson thing? Your words seem all alike. The one doth not stroke me, nor the other strike. If one is going to be a writer, it's an attitude one must cultivate. And I've come to realize that these MAGA folks, these right-wing Republicans, have very little else to go with other than name-calling. And it's become evident to me in these comments that when one of the commenters slips into that tone, I guess, that he or she is doing it not for my benefit, but for his or her own benefit. They are trying to make themselves feel something in a certain way. I'll read you the third story from Shah's book, which is particularly pertinent here. This one is called Names. You call me a Christian to make me angry and to make yourselves feel happy. Others call themselves Christians to make themselves feel other emotions. Very well, if we are dealing in exciting words, I will call you a devil worshipper. That should give you an agitation which will please you for some time. A name is appended to that, Zabardast Khan. Presumably the person it is attributed to. Let me just read that one again. Names. You call me a Christian to make me angry and to make yourself feel happy. Others call themselves Christians to make themselves feel other emotions. Very well, if we are dealing in exciting words, I will call you a devil worshipper. That should give you an agitation which will please you for some time. And you realize right off that anybody who employs such a technique, that is using these loaded words, the fact that they are employing it indicates that they themselves then are highly susceptible to it. As I say, when we write poetry, we tend to be fairly neutral with our words, and whatever implications you as the reader or you as the listener want to load upon them, that's on yours. And we say, be my guest. Whoops, now she's sitting on my phone, I know. So let me go into some of these comments. And I'll just respond a little bit. So, Jesus Christ, you suck, by Brett Whitty. I mean, I guess it was flagged by YouTube because of the word suck. I don't know. There's not much you can do about that. And then the next one, I think I may have mentioned this one somewhere along the way. It's spelled in such a way that the word is not clear, but somehow YouTube recognized something about it and so put it in the hold pile. Leftist low life, get a job, parasite, which just it's striking how many of the comments one gets are along those lines. More frequently, it will be of the don't quit your day job variety, as though anybody makes money writing poetry. I think even the most famous poets don't really do so. They tend to maybe make money from some side teaching gig or something like that. Poetry books do not sell very well. But, so it's funny that this right-wing worldview values every activity based upon the kind of money that it can perhaps pull in. I mean, of course, they value even criminal activities, cheats, as worthy if they bring in money. We know that just by their prime example. But leftist, lowlife, get a job, parasite. The phrase parasite, of course, is famously one used by Elon Musk to describe all of us, everybody, except for him and his tech billionaire friends. The rest of us are all parasites. But I have to confess, and I have worked a lot of jobs in my younger days. I think I talked about it when I was reading, what was it, Cheaper by the Dozen by Gilbreth. I found some of the actual videos that they filmed of office workers, or no, factory workers, having to use their methods to speed up the assembly line process. And it reminded me of a lot of jobs I had. In my day, it was more office work that had been transformed and streamlined and made more efficient. I worked a lot in banks, and so you would be processing checks, that kind of things. And it was just as Gilbreth wanted. It was very efficient and not fun. And in the course of my life, I have seen jobs go from where there once was a possibility where an employee could just kind of be sitting at a desk and have a question popped at them once or twice a day, or that kind of thing. That situation is rarer and rarer, and everybody, including the barista at the coffee house, is now expected to really produce labor at a frenetic pace that would never have been thought of in the world into which I had been born. Of course, those that implemented such systems did well by themselves. But so this suggestion, get a job, parasite, I hate to inform the person, but most of my life has been lived thinking that it would be better not to have a job. Now, I wish that I had had a big sort of endowment where all of this job seeking and job keeping had not been necessary, though I have learned a lot from it. But now that I am at the latter stage of my life and in a position where that is not required of me, this is more like a dream come true. Why would I want to do that? Now, in the old days, I lived in a slum building in one of the better neighborhoods in Chicago, but the building was falling apart. The wiring in the halls was just bare outside. I mean, things had been strung up. The previous tenant had made certain modifications to the apartment for which he was evicted, and then the landlord never fixed any of these things. And there was so much wrong with this apartment. It had been a cold water flat, one guy told me, in its origins. There was hot water, but nothing worked all that well. I used to teach when I was briefly in Asia, English as a second language. There was a textbook I loved called No Hot Water Tonight. And that was just a fact of life in this apartment. So I use that as a means of buying time. Now, it's hard for anybody nowadays to get an apartment with low rent. I went in at $250 a month and went out at $285 a month. He raised it once over the course of more than a dozen years. So, if your experience with jobs has been anything like mine, why on earth why would any sane person want one of these jobs? It doesn't make sense. As a writer of poetry, I am possibly producing something of value to future generations, if not to the present. And even if not, there is some value to the society simply to have figures amongst us wearing the cap of poet. Just a lot more interesting than entrepreneurs, don't you think? And I've given the story of the guys at from Shure Electronics, a company I worked at a couple of times. They wound up in a horrific car accident, and all three of them died. They had a band. And the newspaper articles all made reference to the band which they were in. Young men, I think, in their 20s. And I know that that would be how they would have wanted to be remembered. They were on their lunch break. If you think the world would be a better place with nobody but real estate magnates, you probably need to think a little further. So, another one, you dumb Trump chump, kiss my rump. I mean, I love the sort of internal rhymes there. I should possibly check that and make that one okay. But it gives me pleasure, but I don't think it really would add much to the conversation. So, and I don't want to second guess YouTube. If YouTube flags something for holding, I will just leave it there for holding. Then another one. Trust me, Marxist Democrats, libtards are no longer the educated class, smiling emojis. They are dumb AF. And so you get the word libtards, and I'm sure that's a flashpoint to YouTube. And again, it brings us right to the Sufi masters. They are trying to get a rise out of people. There was a video that I watched by some young woman talking about, she had a realization that these folks, they get their jollies, they get the meaning of their lives out of causing a reaction, provoking a reaction from just decent, sane people, which they call owning the libs. And that phrase is kind of weird, but she realized there's something supremely pathetic about that your joy is going to come by purposely provoking other people. And her example was some woman, say, who puts on a red MAGA hat and walks into a gay bar or something. She's not in that bar because she wants to have a good time. She's not in that bar because she wants to have some kind of conversation with people. She's in there because she wants to provoke folks. Everybody knows that this MAGA core wants to do harm to anybody who is a little bit different from the norm, which they have defined very narrowly. If you look at the animal kingdom, nature is a lot more diversified than that. But how sad and pathetic it is to derive your happiness. I mean, she did go into the bar looking for happiness, but the kind of happiness you get from trying to get somebody else worked up, bent out of shape, that kind of thing. Really sad, really pathetic. And the next one was by a Christian woman. She had left several comments, all sort of one after the other, which were not flagged because she was praising another person who commented something. And I think the fact that this person had said something made her think this person might be a good Christian. And this was what this Christian woman wrote. "Shut up, just shut up. This is not what people need, you frickin' douche." So there you have how good Christians are thinking these days, I suppose. At least MAGA Christians, which are a different breed entirely. The next one, you stupid liberal turd. So it's another one. You can just see. This one, I almost broke my rule and almost set this one to set it to being placed in the normal comments thing as opposed to the holding pen, because I have thought about it. And actually my first reaction was a little bit different to what the person I suppose would have expected. Get over it, libtard. America voted for Trump and you commies voted for the loser Camel Toe. We won and you lost. And the thought that I had immediately was, of course, they have created this strange dichotomy. They somehow think that people that care about the Bill of Rights, that somehow we're just only thinking about this sort of ball game status, what the score was in the vote count of that election way back in November, or that I'm even thinking about Kamala Harris, for example, whose name this person decided it would be funny to try to change according to the way Donald Trump himself might do. We won and you lost. But the thought that occurred to me was that, well, I think actually, as we are seeing, you are losing exactly the same amount as I am losing, as our rights are slowly being stripped away. And it's very sad. But I am not interested in going in and having a conversation with any of these folks. It's not my job to try to instruct anybody. I'm not a teacher. I don't care if you want to go your way and tear down this government. Whatever. I mean, of course, I don't support all of this MAGA destruction. But it's not something that I am interested in getting into some kind of online debate about. And then this one, I'm not really quite sure what this one was. The reason is to give somebody that's a D, something, something like you, something to talk about. I don't know, could that be Democrat? I mean, I've never said I was a Democrat, and I don't think that I am. In Chicago, if you want to have a say in elections, you have to ask for the Democrat ballot at the primary. But I've never been a member of a political party, and that's a pretty common thing I've noticed across the board. Everybody who posts videos about this kind of thing, about the destruction of our democracy, the illegal renditions occurring, they automatically assume, again, that the person, because they express such a concern, they must be a Democrat, and that they are still smarting over that electoral loss back in November. You know, no, we've moved on from that. And then this one was the most recent, and it was the video that prompted me to make this video. Deport all illegal immigrants. Not an American citizen, you don't have a right to be here. Well, and one is tempted, maybe I should unflag this one and then respond, but what the person is, of course, not acknowledging is that these deportations, in large part, have occurred to persons who are perfectly legal. The MAGA cohort does not want to look at it. They want to look away. They've invested so much of their identities into this putrid hatred. And so they just want to look away from the facts, want to look away from the breach of due process, which is only the first crack into the Bill of Rights, and not the only one. You don't have a right to be here. Not an American citizen, you don't have a right to be here. And of course, a lot of people have plenty of right to be here without being American citizens. Of course, nobody pretty much wants to anymore, like tourists. You'd have to not be in your right mind to want to come to this country as a tourist right now. But it's not my job to instruct this person, to say, oh, you should go actually look into the details of what's been going on and notice that a lot of these people that have been rounded up, even that have been sent down to the torture camp in El Salvador, the death camp, it's entirely appropriate to say so. A MAGA prison or mega prison that boasts nobody gets out of it alive. That these folks were in the country legally. None of them were charged with crimes here, or at least the vast majority weren't. You can't get good reporting on this, but most of them, that is what a hearing might have called forth. Whether somebody is a criminal or not, everybody is allowed to have their case presented in a hearing, given some sort of adjudication. these folks were deprived that, and taking it, broadening the scope there, we're not just talking about the folks sent down to El Salvador, but all across the country, people who have spoken out against the Israeli genocide in Palestine, have been incarcerated, have been almost disappeared, again, without due process, simply for exercising their free speech rights. One person had simply written an op-ed piece in a school newspaper. So I thought I would close with a little something from Theodore Dalrymple. I've read this before. He, I don't know that he writes very much anymore. Very good writer, but he unfortunately went down the far-right rabbit hole himself, and was early on one of the first persons who developed an unnatural obsession with the word liberal and with people that he put into that category. But this is from an essay, What We Have to Lose, and I think I may have read some of this in one of my videos talking about something by B. Traven, probably back in January. If I can find it. He describes an incident from his childhood. I remembered an episode from my childhood. My brother and I took a radio out onto the lawn and there smashed it into 1,000 pieces with croquet mallets. With a pleasantly vengeful fury, as if performing a valuable task, we pursued every last component with our mallets until we had pulverized it into unrecognizability. The joy we felt was indescribable, but where it came from or what it meant, we knew not. Within our small souls, civilization struggled with barbarism, and had we suffered no retribution, I suspect that barbarism's temporary victory would have been more lasting. So it's interesting. He tries to tie that act of destruction, somehow he tries to tie that in with liberality of mind. And it is funny that today, of course, this massive destruction is being wreaked by persons on the right in a movement he helped push ahead. And so what has happened to my country has been an explicit act of demolition. No need to go into the details of it. And I can see from the pacing of my comments that I think some of these far-right MAGA people have begun to step back a little bit and say, oh my gosh, what is going on here? I think when I was a kid, I think that it's probably not that uncommon. I'm sure that I had a similar experience to Dalrymple and his brother taking some kind of toy and just smashing it to bits. Well, in the family I grew up in, I know the result of that would have been a smashed toy. There was no way my parents were going to go and purchase another toy or to replace it. So there would have, after that excitement which he talks about, there would have been that enormous letdown. Realizing, oh, breaking this toy was maybe not such a good idea. And so we are moving into the find out phase for more and more of these right-wing MAGA nuts, I think is the popular phrase for them, where the evidence or the consequences of this vast destruction are starting to become manifest, and even in some cases coming home to roost. What started out as, I'm going to own the libs, which is a way of saying, I'm going to get a rise out of people. Well, all of a sudden, here and there, a few of them are realizing, oh, I got a rise out of people by destroying things. Maybe we should slow down the destruction at this point. Maybe that's a little too much destruction. What is the phrase? The bull has gotten out of the gate at this point. So these are just more random thoughts with no conclusion. I'm taking a small break from my dedication, but I hope to get back soon, because indeed these perpetrators are only slowing themselves to the extent that we the people, the courts, and opposition politicians, or even politicians of their own party, to the extent that we all are trying to put some brakes on them. So I will leave it there. Thank you for stopping by my channel.